Grand finale featuring Kawhi. Still major noise today, starting with Clay. The Warriors agreeing to a max deal, 5 years, $190 million for Thompson as he recovers from a torn ACL. The deal will keep the Splash Brothers together for years to come. Golden State also adding more scoring. D'Angelo Russell is coming to the Bay in a sign and trade with the Nets that gives Russell a max deal. The Warriors also sent Andre Iguodala to the Grizzlies to gain cap flexibility. Elsewhere around the league, the Heat trading Hassan Whiteside to the Trailblazers for Mo Harkless and Myers Leonard. Whiteside's role dwindled in Miami after losing his starting job. And after losing Al Horford to Philly, Boston will bring in Enes Kanter back east. The Knicks waived Kanter in February, but he landed in Portland where he delivered several strong playoff performances. Giving his phones a break for a few minutes, Woj joining us now. As things start to settle down, what are you hearing about Kawhi's decision, when and where?
That it could still take some time this week, that the teams pursuing him, they have an expectation that this may not play out quickly early in the week. It may not come off the board as quickly as Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant did. And so that's causing the Clippers, the Lakers, who have significant cap space, to watch players, especially the Lakers, seeing players like Seth Curry go off the board in free agency, players who would be attractive to them. Danny Green's a player out there who's going to have to make a decision soon. He's waiting to see what Kawhi Leonard does. But opportunities are coming off the board. And, Kawhi Leonard can afford to wait. Everyone's going to wait on Kawhi. But the role players who's may either join him or go somewhere else, they're impacted by a decision taking some time.
And you see some of these teams just sitting there waiting and watching and wondering. And, of course, Kawhi's going to do it on his terms here. The big shocker, we saw some surprises, but the big shocker is D'Angelo Russell going back to the West Coast. But the idea of California and a team, I don't think a lot of people thought of Golden State being that team. How did this deal come together?
Well, once Kevin Durant committed to the Nets, there was an opportunity there with Russell as a restricted free agent to do a sign and trade, and that's what happened. I was told today that the deal is being finalized now. A couple role players with the Nets are going. Actually, they're on their way to Minnesota with cash. And D'Angelo Russell, 4 years, $117 million max deal, and he'll move in to a backcourt with Steph Curry next year while Klay Thompson is rehabbing that ACL injury. And for D'Angelo Russell, listen, his role in putting the Nets in position to be able to sign Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, shouldn't be underestimated. He helped give that organization some credibility.
Still a couple years away from his prime, too. We'll see how that plays out with D'Angelo. Now, the Jimmy Butler sign and trade involving the Sixers and the Heat. We have heard that a third team had to be involved. You've got a fourth team involved. How did this come together?
Deal's complete now. I'm told the Clippers got involved as a fourth team. They're going to take on Mo Harkless's contract and another first-round pick from the Heat to take on that money. So the Clippers now have a 2021 and 2023 first-round pick from Miami. They put Harkless in, and they still have the cap space to go after Kawhi. But Jimmy Butler now 4 years, $142 million in Miami. The money works out. The salary cap, it all fits. And Jimmy Butler will be, really the centerpiece now of that Miami team.
That third team is Portland getting Whiteside in that trade as well. So this all plays out. We'll see how this continues, Woj. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
All
Kev.
right, Civic.
D'Angelo Russell's going back to Cali. But the surprise, it's the Warriors, not the Lakers. That's his new team. Here's how Russell fits into the Golden State offense. Expect Steph Curry to still be the primary ball handler. The Warriors had the best offense in the league when Steph brought it up, while the Nets were average in the league with Russell as the primary ball handler. That probably means Russell will move to Klay Thompson's role while he's out recovering from the ACL. He shot 39% on catch-and-shoot threes this past season, just 1 percentage point lower than Klay. D'Angelo will still get the ball in his hands and utilize picks, just like he did in Brooklyn. Russell was one of 3 ball handlers to use at least 3,000 picks last season, along with Trae Young and Kemba Walker.
All right, Brian Windhorst joins us now here on SportsCenter. And, Brian, to say that the Warriors were a surprise team in this trade for D'Angelo Russell may be an understatement, but what does this deal say about the direction of the Warriors' future?
That it's uncertain. It's something that we haven't seen from the Warriors in 5 or 6 years. They've always had their plans, always in alignment, figured out. They really haven't surprised us with their offseason moves. they were pretty sure that they were going to lose Durant, and they were working on this, even though it only didn't become public till yesterday. They were working on this through the weekend. What's so surprising, Michael, is they had to use 2 first-round picks to make this move. One to get the Nets to even cooperate, and then one to move off of Andre Iguodala. That's just not the type of trade that we've seen them make before. They're losing some of their depth by deciding to do this. They are really in transition, and they did this to Kit Russell. Even if he's not a good fit, I think that they may look to trade him down the line, but they are really in a transition period.
Yeah, got to make something happen in the wake of Kevin Durant leaving. All right, let's go to the Eastern Conference, Wendy. The Bucks posted the best record in the NBA last season, but fell short in the Eastern Conference Finals, of course, to eventual champion Toronto. How has this offseason impacted them in terms of them making a deeper run into next year's playoffs?
Well, first off, if Kawhi leaves Toronto, that would be a major boom. But they can't control that. So they've done a terrific job of keeping their team mostly together. And all of the deals that they signed were good deals. Middleton below the max. Brook Lopez, in my mind, below his market value. Robin Lopez below his market value. George Hill on a quality contract. And then today, Wes Matthews on a minimum. And not only that, but the sign and trade they did for Brogdon got them 3 draft picks plus a trade exception that they can use sometime between now and the trade deadline to improve their team. Excellent, smart, savvy moves. John Horst, their GM, was Executive of the Year for a reason, and he's keeping up his hot streak.
All right, let me ask you this. This is sort of big picture. So much player movement in this year's free agency, guys going from one coast to the other. What does this mean for the league as a whole right now?
Yeah, Michael, I think it was a great day for the league because we saw talent get spread out a little bit. We definitely saw some more teams like Utah, Indiana, and now New Orleans rise up. We may see the Lakers or Clippers, depending on where Kawhi goes, rise up. I think we're going to see a tremendously competitive season next year. We're not going to have any idea really who's going to win the title or even get to the finals at the beginning. And I also think that at the end of the day, we're going to be talking about...
Sixers may have been the busiest team yesterday. First, the losses. The team finalized a sign and trade earlier this afternoon that will send Jimmy Butler to the Heat for Josh Richardson. They lose some shooting. J.J. Redick is trading in Broad Street for Bourbon Street as he agreed to a 2-year deal with the Pelicans. Redick is one of 6 players to make at least 200 threes in 4 or more seasons. As for the additions, Tobias Harris agreeing to a 5-year, $180 million contract to return to Philly. Harris's agent and father telling Woj. Then, just about 2 hours after that, 5-time All-Star Al Horford agreed to a 4-year, $109 million deal with Philly. They were the mystery team, leaving the Celtics, that is Horford, after 3 seasons, his agent telling Woj. A closer look, though, with Horford and his ability to coexist with Joel Embiid. After all, the Celtics' best front court lineup last season was actually when Horford was on the court with fellow center Aaron Baines. It also helps that Horford can stretch the floor. Shot 36% on catch-and-shoot threes last season. It's not J.J. Redick or Jimmy Butler range, but it should help some spacing with Embiid on the floor. And when it comes to playoff time in the process, they're going to be glad he won't be defended by Horford. Embiid shot 35% against Horford over the last 3 seasons, his 3rd worst percentage against any defender. Meanwhile, all these moves, a Sixers legend likes what he sees. Listen to this.
Yesterday was a great day for Brooklyn, but it was the 2nd best day for the Philadelphia 76ers. I love what they did. I think they're the team to beat in the NBA, no matter what Kawhi does. You know, they were the team that came the closest to beating them, but with the addition of Josh Richardson and Al Horford, the 76ers, to me, became the team to beat. But it depends on 2 things. Joel Embiid's got to get his fat butt in shape. And secondly, Ben Simmons got to work on his game. If those 2 things happen, the Philadelphia 76ers are the team to beat in the NBA.
We love Chuck, but boy, that is a bold statement. Tim Legler joining us here on SportsCenter. Tim, let's talk about Brett Brown and how he's going to use all these players, specifically down low, when you see Horford and Embiid together.
Yeah, well, look, I think there are complementary pieces here because Al Horford is a guy that's become a really accomplished three-point shooter. We know Joel Embiid can knock down an occasional 3, but this situation now will be better served with Joel Embiid spending the majority of his time in the post. Anything below the elbows, because Al Horford is going to be primarily a pick-and-pop player, a space player, get occasional touch in the low post. But Joel Embiid has to go into every night with the mentality, I'm going to dominate the paint. And if he does that, Al Horford, to me, is a great compliment to him because of his ability to shoot the three-point shot. I think their bigger challenge, Kevin, is going to come on the other end of the floor because one of those guys is going to have to spend a lot more time on the perimeter defensively. They're both great lane cloggers. They're rim protectors. They're physical defenders in the lane. But now you're going to ask them to be out there together. That means someone is going to be playing a lot more pick-and-roll defense, and someone is going to be chasing three-point shooters at the three-point line because that's the way offenses look now in the NBA. That, to me, is a much bigger challenge than these two guys playing together offensively.
You mentioned chasing people. Their season ended on a three-point shot on the outside chasing Kawhi Leonard. He is the last major free agent chip to fall. If he decides to go out west and leave the Eastern Conference, where does that put the Sixers in the East next season in your mind?
Well, I have to agree with Charles Barkley. I think for me they would be the favorite. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty in making these pieces fit, but a lot of these teams at the top of the East have uncertainty, particularly if Kawhi Leonard leaves. And you look at some of the other changes. Philadelphia, to me, should have championship expectations going into this season. It was a little bit maybe premature where we got ourselves when they added Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. This is a different look. The versatility defensively, the number of ways they can beat you offensively. I think the 76ers, to me, would be the team to beat. And I think Boston is a team right now that's not getting enough credit. I think Kemba Walker's a guy that really is not that big of a drop-off in terms of talent from Kyrie Irving. But I think the lift he's going to give them every day with a smile on his face, a bounce in his step, and the way he's going to connect to those younger players, lead those younger players, there's going to be an air in that locker room that's going to get the best out of, I think, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as well. And then I put Milwaukee still in the mix. They have basically their team intact with the exception of Brogdon, and they do have Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP of the league. So they're not going away. But I think of all those three, Philadelphia, to me, right now, is the team I look at on paper and say they should come out of the East.
And if you're just joining us, that is with the context of Kawhi leaves to go out west and not stay in Toronto. Legs, thank you so much.
You got it, Kevin.
All right, guys, got a pretty interesting match.